Good evening, everyone. We're delighted you're able to join us this evening for our Nutrition for Performance in School and Life webinar. I'd like to first of all thank Mr. Elliot Taylor and Ms. Michaela White, our Athletic Development and Sports Operations Specialists respectively, for their hard work in organising this evening's presentation. They will act as your moderators this evening, collating and responding where appropriate to your questions as they come through. You'll see a live Q&A function on your screen. This is where any questions you may have can be typed and sent through to our moderators. Again, they'll collate these for raising in the Q&A time at the end of the presentation, or if appropriate, respond to you directly. As you may be aware, this evening's presenter is Jess Spenlove, co-founder of the Health and Performance Collective. Jess is an advanced sports dietitian, accredited practicing dietitian, and co-host of the podcast My Millennial Health. She has more than 30 seasons of professional sports experience across AFL, NRL, AFLW, netball, basketball, rugby union and football, and has worked with many Olympic athletes and high-profile personalities. Outside of this, Jess works with schools, corporate organisations, executives, the food industry, brands and motivated individuals. She will speak with you tonight about the power of food when it comes to maximising energy, productivity and performance in both school and overall in life. So, without further ado, over to you, Jess.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to bring this presentation to you today. It's what I would call my keynote presentation, and it's something I deliver a very similar version of this to a mixed variety of people. So my corporate wellbeing partners, the professional athletes I work with, school sports programs, and overall just any wellbeing program. And the reason for that is over the last decade of my career, working with big businesses, professional athletes, school programs, literally everyone, I've come to learn that there really are some fundamental principles which, if anybody and everybody can learn them, it can really set their day and their week and really their life up for success. And this is all about you feeling your best to get the most out of your life. So whether that is on the day-to-day, in the classroom, how you feel when you're focusing, how it is across the week and across the year. So in today's talk, I'll cover off the concept around food is fuel, and I'll talk about all the elements and why this is a really simple but key formula to have when formulating your meals and your snacks. And we'll also talk about, what to eat before exams. So I can understand if there's exams and we're a little bit nervous, sometimes the tendency can be to skip food. We definitely don't want to do that. And we'll talk about, some big rocks like hydration, food and sleep, and also some brain hero foods. So as mentioned, there is a chat function, so if there are questions, drop them in. Elliot will read them out either throughout or at the end. We'll have an opportunity to chat and answer any questions that you want answered. But my intro, that was, about me, but essentially my business is all about helping people live and perform at their best, and we're a team of 6 dietitians. We're growing, and myself and Chloe McLeod co-founded the business, and we work across sports, corporates, wellbeing. We kind of have our different niches. I'm a bit more the sports and the performance to help you live your best life, and Chloe's more about the gut health and helping people feel their healthiest selves. But lots of alignment, and there's a couple of logos for the companies and sports teams that we have worked with or work with. So when I'm talking to adolescents in particular, there's so many factors to consider when it comes to nutrition. So there's growth and puberty, which, adults like myself, I don't need to consider that anymore. There's significant energy requirements, both from a macro and a micronutrient point of view. So it's really critical at this period of time that we are optimizing the food that we're eating. And, it's pretty easy to get the concept that, best think about your dream car, the absolute dream car, maybe not your first car you get when you get your Ps, but your dream car. You want to put the best high-end petrol in whatever your dream car is. We don't want to just put, the cheapest E10 that's going around. Similarly with, our own bodies, which are the dream cars, the Maseratis, the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, the Range Rovers, whatever they might be, we want to put the best fuel in, because humans are pretty incredible. Our bodies are pretty impressive. We can run and function off anything, but just because we can run and function off anything doesn't mean we'll get the best out of ourselves. So I really want you to have that concept that we're putting that premium fuel in these dream cars, which are yourselves. So we want to fuel for growth and puberty, for brain function and concentration, how we think and feel on the day-to-day. And for those of you that are active, hopefully everyone's active, but I understand there might be some on here that are a bit more involved in sports than others. So we need to factor that in as well. So when we're considering everything we're learning today, it's to support all of those key fundamentals. The first concept that I want to introduce is one which I call all the elements. So this is how I talk to everyone about pulling and plating a meal, and also snacks. So when we get to the snack section, I really see that as what I call a low-hanging fruit. And what that means, it's like the easiest thing to pick and change. And it's simply shifting, or maybe not even shifting, but knowing that you should have the same approach with your snacks from all the elements and a composition point of view. So each of these 4 elements here have a different function, which I'll talk you through. And this is all about nailing the sweet spot of giving your body what it needs, making sure you feel good, making sure that you're healthy yourself, sustaining your energy, sustaining your function, but also making sure the food tastes good. So, for me, yes, I'm a dietitian, and yes, nutrition is very important, but my personal philosophy is that food needs to be nutritious, delicious, and easy, and the 3 are equally as important. So, there's no point eating food we don't like, and there's no point making something that's too hard that we're not going to sustain. It's all about those things done consistently. So zooming in, I guess, on the different elements and their functions, and I really kind of, want you to understand what each one serves us with, because if we know that and we do that, it makes it easier to connect with why we're feeling so much better. And the other thing I guess I want to say there is nutrition and shifts in nutrition for the better. We nearly feel this instantaneously. Like, I'm talking a matter of a few days. So, it might be for you that in the afternoon you don't crash and burn as much, or in the afternoon or after dinner you're not as hungry or snacky or craving sweet food. So all of those little things that we can feel, they're often a result of what we do or don't do across the day. So protein is the first element I like to talk about. And when you hear the word protein, I want you to think satisfy. So yes, I'm a sports dietitian and a performance dietitian, and I talk about recovery and body composition and going to the gym and all that stuff. But when we talk protein, the most important function for everyone on the day-to-day is that it keeps us satisfied. So it's called a feeling of satiety, which means how full we are. And if we start to get a more consistent intake of protein across the day, in particular breakfast and snacks, because that's where most people, students, adults, everyone, we don't get enough, that's when we do start to have a difference. And I guess everything I'm talking to you about today is about you feeling great at the start of the day and sustaining it, rather than feeling maybe pretty good at the start but then falling off a cliff at the end of the day. We want to feel great and sustain. So spreading out our protein intake will help do that. It's the main nutrient when it comes to appetite control. And if you're visualizing your plate, it should take up about 1/4 to 1/3 of each main meal. So when I talk about protein, there's a few different kind of food groups. There's, your animal and also your plant-based ones, depending on how people and students and their families eat. So I'm not here to push anything onto anyone. I'm just here to kind of say protein's important. Each meal and snack should have at least 10 grams. To be honest, meals should have 15 to 20, and most people get plenty of it at lunch and dinner. Like you can see here with the example of the chicken breast, it's in 100 grams, which is less than half of a chicken breast, you get 30. So it's pretty easy. And what we know, most people get a lot at lunch and dinner and not much at breakfast and snacks. So nearly what I want to try and do is spread it out so it's a little bit more even across the day. So I always like to say at this point, that doesn't mean we're having chicken for breakfast. Certainly doesn't mean that, but we look at the other foods that we have at those meals and we think about what we can dial up. So, if it's a cereal in the morning, maybe it's milk or soy milk with a bit of Greek yogurt on top. Maybe if you're more team savory, maybe it's eggs on toast or a bit of cheese with some smoked salmon or something like that. Maybe it's a smoothie, milk and yogurt with some frozen fruit. So, you choose your what you gravitate towards there. But I think I really want you to know that 10 to is the minimum amount that everybody should be aiming to have, maybe more 15 to 20. So this will keep you full during the day. It'll promote focus because you're sustained when we're not hungry or dipping in energy. And it also support growth and development. So as I mentioned, adolescents, higher requirements, the thing when we're having an energy, a puberty, like a growth spurt, our energy requirements increase and we're really hungry. It's often how we can detect if we might be going through one. So having that spread of intake of protein is really important for that. So yeah, that's my first element. I really like to start there because it's a real game changer, and it's the one most people are not doing, just because simply it's quite hard to actually hit that unless you're really kind of dialed in and you know that information. The second element, carbohydrates, and I want you to think of these as fuel. So not just physical fuel for the body, but fuel for the brain. 20% of our total energy requirements, so before we even move or do anything, are taken up by our brain. It's a very energy hungry organ. Obviously, it's got a lot of important roles, and we really want to make sure that we're giving our brain the fuel that it needs, but it's premium fuel. So remember, dream car, premium fuel. Premium fuel when we're talking carbohydrates, high fiber, whole grain. Our gut loves it, our gut bugs, which there's a big connection between our gut health and our brain, and that's probably a education session for another day. But just know that the whole grain, high fiber carbs are the ones that we want. They are released slower, so when we get enough protein, we sustain our energy. But when we're giving it the good amount of whole grain, high fiber carbohydrates, that also helps us sustain because it's released more slowly. So protein, we want to keep consistent. Carbohydrates should also be about 1/4 to 1/3. If you're active, you want to eat more on the days you're more active, but let's keep it simple, and let's just say we're aiming for about 1/4 to 1/3 of each meal that we're having from these whole grain carbohydrates as well. The good thing about these types of foods, they are pretty much in every food group except for like our meat and our chicken and our fish, and also our salad vegetables like lettuce and carrot. Look, they have tiny little amounts, but I wouldn't be classifying them as a carbohydrate. But everything else, fruits, breads, cereals, crackers, different starchy vegetables, lentils and legumes, there's plenty of options here. And these are really important because they're the body's main fuel source. They help fuel you for a day of learning and also, any activity that you might do. And having consistent amounts of this across the day also helps keep you full during class time in combination with that protein. The third element, look, these are all really important, but for me, the protein and the color are probably the two. I don't know if most important is the right term, but they're the areas most people can work on. So we're eating carbs across the day, whether they're whole grain, high fiber, maybe some are, some aren't. But we know that 5% of Australian children and adolescents and 8% of adults are eating enough vegetables. So when I talk about colours, I talk about fruits and veggies, anything that's colourful, but veggies in particular. So I want you to walk away here from thinking, if I'm looking at a meal or a snack and it's only brown and white, it's not complete. So if we have that on our radar, it starts to shift and we look, and I've got a nice little representation on a few slides time of that. But look, the long and the short of it is the different colours reflect the different micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. All of those foods, they don't give us energy like our protein and our carbs and our fats, but they're important for supporting what we call the metabolic breakdown, which basically means for our carbs, proteins, and fats to work properly, the colour is a part of that. But most importantly, it's about feeding our gut bugs. So I know I've kind of really, briefly touched on that, but the different makeup of all of the different things in our gut like to feast on lots of different types. So quantity and diversity are really important. But look, I guess just know meal and snack, if it's only brown and white, it's not complete. What can I throw on it? Can I put some berries, some banana, some apple, some baby spinach, some cherry tomatoes? whatever it might be. We just want to get some color on there. And this is a massive, massive shift that people can make. And you know, I understand some people, I don't like this and I don't like that. Well, it's about, okay, what do we like and how can we start to do that? And I promise you, like, these are conversations that I have with all of my clients, whether it's school students, adolescent athletes, professional athletes. Everybody can work on this because, as I said, you know, less than 10% of adults and children are getting enough of this. So it's a really kind of low-hanging fruit, and I guess in this regard, that's a bit of a pun as well. But look, you know, color, any color, red, orange, green, yellow, purple, you know, the more the better. But at least start with one color. And, you know, it's really important from that micronutrient, those vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. A lot of these foods are high in fiber as well, so they keep us full, and our gut bugs love them and they feast off them. And, you know, healthy gut really does speak to a healthy, happy, productive, focused mind. So, you know, this is a great example. Like, aside from the bottom photos looking so much better, they are just so much better for you. So the top, you know, they're really good. You've got whole grain carbs from some whole grain toast or some oats, two of my, you know, favorite kind of options there. And we've got some protein, we've got some egg or some milk and maybe some yogurt in the oats. But at the bottom, we've boosted it up. We've added some color. We've added some fruits and some veggies. We've added some micronutrient diversity. Doesn't only look better, it's definitely a much better option for you. And last but certainly not least, I guess it kind of, you know, if we think about the plate, and I've got a nice diagram coming up, they're the three makeups, and they should at least be equal components, ideally. And then our healthy fats kind of tie it all together. So, you know, these have an important role in absorbing certain nutrients, so fat-soluble vitamins, which is our A, D, E, and K, anti-inflammatory properties, so you living your best life, feeling your best, being your healthiest self, good brain function. Like a lot of these foods, when I touch on brain foods at the end, you'll see them pop up. These are really important for optimal brain health and brain function. So avocados, nut butters, salmon, extra virgin olive oil. I'm such a fan of extra virgin olive oil. There's so many good health benefits in there. So cooking with it, dressing with it, baking with it, you know, frying with it. You can cook up to 240 degrees, and it's definitely the only oil that you should be using. It's the most stable. All of those myths about, you know, smoke point and all of that, disproven. What we know, it's more about polar compounds and the stability of the oil, and it's the most stable one. So fats are more energy dense than our other macros, our carbs and our protein. So we don't want to have, you know, a whole heap. They don't have an equal amount on the plate, but they tie it all together. So, you know, these help keep us fuller for longer. They also support growth and development. So if we're going through this energy spurt and our requirements are really high, these foods are a great way to kind of make up that energy deficit. And like I said, they've got a really important role in absorbing certain nutrients. And most importantly, this is a really important food group for the delicious. Like, food that doesn't have any fat in it doesn't really taste, you know, as tasty as what something which has a good extra virgin olive oil on a salad. I mean, you know, if anyone on here is like, oh, I'm not really into salad or veggies, well, if you're just trying to eat salad and veggies as they are, maybe not that tasty, but if you add some extra virgin olive oil, maybe some salt, pepper, some lemon, totally different. So we want to add it, we want to improve the taste, which is as well as improving that nutritional profile. So I guess bringing it all together, whether we're thinking meals and snacks. So again, like I said, we want to take this kind of shift and have it at snack time as well. It's not just muesli bar and fruit, like fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but we're missing some of those elements. We might be missing the protein element, which that's the satisfying nutrient. So think about your meals and snacks. You know, there's some examples there. You know, this picture here is taken from my Instagram. So I have my own personal, it's professional, but Instagram account where I put this stuff up, and so does my business. So yeah, that's where these images are from. But about equal amounts, a little bit of fat. Think about it as equal kind of ratios. And there's some examples there, so of portion size. But for me, I don't like to recommend specific amounts. It's more about how the person eats and then starting to take shape of the ratios. And I think that's a much more nice and conducive and flexible way of improving your nutrition. So bringing all of this together, we've got some examples of types of foods and meals that we might like to have. So, starting at your breakfast, maybe it's you're more of a sweet yogurt person. So if we do our yogurt, our Greek yogurt or our natural yogurt, some rolled oats and berries and some chia seeds or some muesli, we start to get all the elements. Similarly, the eggs on toast, I guess, I'm careful when I say this, there's nothing lucky or good about working from home or schooling from home, but one maybe small silver lining is that we do have control over our nutrition. It is a controllable factor. So if being in the house and having a bit more time to have breakfast because you don't have to travel, or lunch away from your desk, we don't want to have it, at our desk while we're studying, we want to step away. But there might be a bit more time to put some of this into practice, which then as we integrate back, I'm mindful that there's probably students and parents on here. So there's kind of tips and tricks for everyone. But as we integrate back to school or the office or whatever it might be, hopefully we've had this opportunity to put some of these things into practice so we're able to do that when life resumes to normal, which we all can't wait for. But you can see here it's just about knowing and then piecing it together. And for most of you, it's not about changing what you're doing. That's probably one thing. I never want to drastically change what anyone's doing. I want you to look at what you're doing and then optimize, because we don't want to make it hard. Remember, nutritious, delicious, and easy. 3 equally important factors. So some quick and easy grab and go lunch options at home. So maybe if you're more like a sandwich person and it's looking more like a ham and cheese sandwich with not much else, can we do some veggie sticks on the side or bulk it up? Can we do tuna or chicken just to change it up as well, just to make sure we're not always having those deli meats? Tuna and rice, brown and white, can we bulk it up? Those kale slaw bags, pre-cut salads is such a great way to get some colour in and nice and easy. Or even some eggs on toast like I've showed you before with some veggies on them as well. My number one tip for front-footing the day when it comes to conserving energy, being focused across the day, feeling good, productivity, is to get the breakfast piece of the puzzle right, or to at least be working on it. So as I've kind of said, I'm not here trying to prevent you falling off a cliff. I am, but I'm here trying to help you feel your best and sustain that. And, it's controversial, and, whether I guess if I'm talking more to corporates, I always get questions around intermittent fasting. It's kind of on trend at the moment. But when I'm talking school students, when I'm looking at your requirements, factoring in growth, puberty, food, function, when I'm factoring in opportunities to optimize what you're eating, breakfast is an opportunity to do that. So skipping it means we remove that, and I can guarantee there is a consequence somewhere. So it's probably afternoon or after dinner, all those snacking in the cupboard speaking to us, the sugar cravings, a lot of that will kind of drop or disappear if we fix the front end of the day. So like I said, nutrition is about optimizing how you think and feel, and it's not just about food to fuel you physically, but also mentally. If you're not good at breakfast, it's just about creating the habit, being consistent and being persistent with it, starting somewhere and building. It's about progress over perfection. The good thing is humans like habits, and once we start to feel better, we're kind of like, oh, we feel so much better, let's keep doing that. So sometimes you just got to focus on one area. And if I could pick one, which if you're not doing it properly, it would be breakfast. Start it, nail it, and the domino effect across the day will be so positive. Here's a few examples of what you might like to have. So maybe if you're a savory, like a breakfast wrap, that's kind of my go-to breakfast most days. A couple of eggs, a bit of a wrap, some veggies, happy days. Overnight oats are a really great one. You can make them the day before, or you can make them for a few days. Super easy. Soak some oats in some milk or some coconut water, some yogurt, some nuts and seeds, a few different things. Top it in the morning with some extra fruit, all the elements. We've got everything there. or maybe a smoothie. So maybe the green smoothie if we're being extra adventurous, or even just, milk yogurt, banana, berries, or mango. Mango and raspberries are a really delicious combination, and they can be really good for people who aren't great at breakfast. It's a good way to get a lot down. So thinking about exams and thinking about how we want to fuel, remember, not only our body, but our brain. And when we're moving into exam period, we might have a couple of exams in a day or, consecutively. So we want you to feel good across the day. So depending on who you are and how you feel in the morning, we still want to get all those elements, but maybe you want to kind of chop and change what you would normally have. But yeah, look, hopefully there's a few options there, because I promise you, the more you do this, the better you will feel on the day-to-day. And if you do then drop off, the good thing is, because we've reset what we know and how we should feel, we do notice that drop off, and then that's the feedback to kind of get back and start putting this back into practice. Snacking for success. Honestly, is this space or this area really will change how you feel on the day-to-day. And as I kind of mentioned before, it's simply because most people don't approach a snack the way that they approach a meal. They don't think about those essential elements. Look, for me here, I at least want the protein, the whole grains, and the color. And if you can get that healthy fats, well, A+ to you, you've nailed all 4, but at least the protein to satisfy, the whole grains to fuel the brain, and the color because we don't get enough of it and they help us feel good. So, a student should be doing your breakfast, your recess, your lunch, your afternoon snack, your dinner, and maybe then a snack after dinner for your study. So we want to be quite consistent with that. And, the way that you can plan your snack, or I like to call them a performance snack, because they're serving a function. They're helping you perform, they're helping you feel good on the day-to-day, they're helping you focus and get the most out of it. And it's about this formula. So protein, look here, I've said aim for 10 to 20, at least the 10. And the reason I really like a lot of Greek yogurts like your Chobani and your YoPros is because they're generally like 12 to 15 grams for a pouch or a pot. And they're generally, most people are pretty open to having them. So flavored, unflavored. I personally like the unflavored, and then I add to it, like I add muesli or I add berries, but a grab and go squeezy pouch with a piece of fruit and maybe a muesli bar. You've ticked your 3, your protein, your whole grains, and your color there. So these are really about sustaining your energy across the day, boosting concentration and productivity, keeping you satisfied. So I see a lot of people, maybe this is more to the parents than the students, but 3 meals a day and dinner's huge, and that's just how they've always eaten. So, there would actually be benefit in having that afternoon snack. Most people can't go more than 4 hours without a meal or a snack and not have a consequence. So there might be a dip in energy, there might be a dip in focus. So, like I said, the snacks are kind of that opportunity to sustain. And also, if there's another occasion of eating, there's another occasion to optimize what you're doing. So what does this look like? Here's a few more examples, maybe some yogurt, nuts and fruit, or some muesli, or maybe some, I see a lot of people doing cheese and crackers. Can we maybe put some cucumber or cherry tomatoes or avocado on there as well? A few more examples, like a little snack plate. I quite like them. I find a lot of students quite like them in the afternoon. So maybe it's some cheese, some crackers, some dip, some veggie sticks. Maybe there's some boiled eggs or smoked salmon or something like that in the fridge. If it's more the sweet, maybe it's the yogurt bowl, or maybe it's just a piece of fruit with one of those. I quite like Carmen's as a brand, like no alliance or allegiance, just good brand with good products. The protein ones are quite good to get that 10 grams. They're not like to really have much like added. It's not like having a supplement or anything like that. It's just, nuts and seeds. So they're a really good option. Smoothies. So again, we're at home, the kitchen's close. Maybe it's an opportunity to have a smoothie in the afternoon. So look, plenty of options there to kind of give you an example of some performance snacks with all those elements to help you get the most out of the day. So what might that look like? So this is a bit of an example on how we can get all the elements, 10 grams or more of protein, whole grain, high fiber carbohydrates, color, and some healthy fats, and how we can get them across the days. So you know, these aren't really too foreign foods for most people. It's just about potentially what are we adding to that. So like I said, it's not about drastic changes, it's about optimizing. So think about maybe what it is. I would think for most people, it's the protein at the breakfast and the snacks to get the 10 grams, and it's probably the color at maybe breakfast and snacks as well. So yeah, hopefully some examples there and some inspiration. And that's, you know, like I said, there might be an extra snack or two depending on study and what else you've got going on in your requirements. For anyone on here who might be, you know, the sporty student training once or twice a day, this is then how that might then look. So it's a similar kind of flow. It's still your main meals and your few snacks, but it's potentially also a pre-training and a post-training option if you're morning and afternoon or routinely, and then potentially something extra. So it's not really changing much, it's just adding to it. So there's maybe some examples for those. So thinking about exams. So, I mean, like I said, at the moment, it's a bit of a dress rehearsal. We're at home. We've got an opportunity to put some good habits into practice. And this can really serve us when we get to exams. And we might be, hopefully we've obviously done our study because we want to go well, but there might be some topping up in between and getting ready for the next. And we just might be a little bit, you know, extra, I don't want to say stressed. Hopefully we're going into it, but we're just, our mind's on, you know, performing in the exam. But we really want to use food as a vehicle to help us perform at our best in the exam and not just feel good at the start of the week, but the end of the week as well. We want to be focused, we want to be confident, and we want to feel fueled. And there's nothing worse than sitting in an exam and feeling hungry because we've not got our nutrition right. So I really want you to kind of use this as an opportunity to start getting organised, and so you can have those good habits as you come into the end of the year, or depending, you know, who's on here and age groups and everything. Like, you know, I know Year 12 trials are kind of just happened or finishing, and obviously HSC is coming up. So, you know, use this as an opportunity to plan out the week, breakfast, start the day with it. It will really kind of set you up, and think about all of those elements. We can also use this as an opportunity to pack our lunch. So, you know, I often say to people, I want you to ask yourself the question, if you've got lunch or leftovers in the fridge, the question becomes, what have I got, or what am I going to eat? Whereas if we're unorganized, or we haven't sorted it, or we're just thinking we're going to pop down the shop and buy something at lunch, often then the question can become, what do I feel like, or what am I going to get? And I know even for myself, if I'm asking myself what's in my fridge versus what do I feel like, I've got two very different answers there. So, you know, use this as an opportunity to develop some good habits. You know, think about maybe what you can help mum and dad with, or if we can do some leftovers, just so you've got some things in the fridge so you can pack your lunch. Or maybe it's even just about having, what I like to talk about is ingredient prep, which is having something from each of those elements prepped and ready to go so we can quickly pull it together. So first thing, you know, ideally have a little bit of a plan. Think about your week. You know, you've got your timetable for your classes, you've got your breaks for recess and lunch. But if this is an area you really want to improve on, you could maybe have a little bit of it's not about having something super strict. It's just about having a guide. You know, what am I going to have? Jess was talking to me about all the elements and recess and lunch, and I'm just going to have a little bit of a think about what I need for my lunches and my snacks. So, you know, the good thing about being at home, maybe you can help mum and dad prep, maybe you can make lunch or some snacks for the family, but, you know, really use this as an opportunity to be a little bit intentional, because it really will pay dividends. I kind of just spoke a little bit about this, but I do really think that packing your lunch is a really important thing to do at the moment, because it just allows you to step away from your desk, have a good meal, but then also hopefully get outside, get some sunshine and get some movement, both the sunshine from a vitamin D point of view and some movement from an oxygen, and getting oxygen around the body and breaking up your day are really important for you feeling your best and you know, sustaining your energy and your productivity as well. So pack your lunch, or at least, you know, have a few of those grab and go, like the tuna rice and kale slaw kind of options, so it's a really quick pull together. Yeah, ingredient prep honestly is a concept which I think is has changed a lot of my clients and athletes' lives. It's probably changed my life a little bit as well. So I'm personally not big. If you're big on meal prep, great, nothing against it. But I don't personally like to eat the same thing every day for a week. But what I do like to be is organized. And so I'm, spending 5 or 10 minutes pulling lunch and dinner together. So we've got our 4 elements, our protein, our whole grain carbs, our color, and our healthy fats. So if we have at least 1 or 2 representatives from each group available, we can quickly pull things together. So we're getting what we need from a nutrition point of view. It's tasting pretty good, but it's easy. So that might be a concept which resonates with you. This is really common. This is what I see a lot of how people's days look when I'm talking about food. What I see is not much breakfast or non-existent, maybe a small recess, bigger lunch, snacking all afternoon, dinner, after dinner snacking. So this is a representation of a lot of people's day. And this is not only a representation then of what people are eating, this is also a representation of what's happening with their energy and their blood glucose levels. So when we have this intake, which is small, massive, everything in between, we have very unstable blood glucose levels, and that really feeds into how we feel, how energized, are we crashing and burning, are we focused? So, me sitting here saying all the elements, consistent intake, that's what we're aiming for, but we just want to start making small little steps to get it closer to this. So if dinner's huge and breakfast is non-existent, it's not going to happen overnight, but we just want to start getting them a little bit closer inside. Bulk one up, more consistent. The thing you'll notice here is that line, which is the representation of your blood glucose levels out a lot, and this has a lot to do with this energy consistency feeling across the day. So really, this is what we're aiming to do, just get a little bit more consistent, but we're able to do that when we're front-footing our day and giving our body what it needs at the start of the day. Sugar and caffeine. So depending on who's on here and the age, could be studying a lot, and if we're studying and we're quite tired, it can be really common for the body and the brain. It's really the brain that drives a lot of things. Like if your brain's feeling tired and you're sitting at your computer or your desk studying a lot, your brain is like, I want to feel better, I want my energy to feel higher, I want my blood glucose to feel higher. What is the quickest thing that's going to do that? Sugar. So remembering how I said the brain takes up 20% of energy intake. So if the brain and the energy and the blood glucose are dropping, it wants a spike, and it's just give me the sweetest thing that's going to do that, because that's going to happen the quickest. So again, as I'm saying, this is about giving your body the premium fuel to sustain rather than crash and burn and then be tempted to go for stuff like this. So the thing I want you to know here is when we eat these high sugar foods, and even if we're having caffeine, again, this is each to their own. I just need you to understand that when you're having these foods, they can have consequences on your blood sugar levels, which will be the crash and the burn, or the spike and the rise and then the drop, as opposed to the sustain, which enables sustained energy and sustained focus. Caffeine, on the other hand, I guess that's, sugar in particular, but caffeine can definitely impact our sleep. So if you are relying on caffeine to study late at night, that can really come at a consequence of your sleep, which the sleep then feeds so much back into how you feel on that day to day. So if you're tired and you're not getting a good sleep, for me, like I said, depending on the age, it's normally something I would say school age, we don't need. But I just really want you to think about, your day and setting it up so we're not being tempted, or we're less tempted to go for these types of foods to help us feel good. I haven't spoken at all yet about hydration, but this, as well as snacks, is a really, really low-hanging fruit. And the reason for that, 50% of our bodies are made up of water. So if we think about it like that, every single cellular function is impacted by our hydration. So if we are dehydrated from a physical and a mental performance point of view, we will fatigue quicker. So we will feel tired, our energy will drop, we may get headaches, lack of concentration, and there can also be an increased risk of overeating. So we're thinking about that graph that I showed you. There's more temptation to overeat when we are dehydrated. So water at the desk, you know, whether it's water, sparkling water, you know, soda streams. I've seen soda streams change so many of my athletes in particular's lives. Like, glamorous part of being a sports dietitian is you actually measure hydration. So most people don't actually have that done to them, but everybody goes to the bathroom every day, and when we go and we are shown how hydrated we are. So if you are, you know, from that kind of medium to darker down, so quite a bright or dark yellow and anything further, that is a really good indicator that you are dehydrated. And if you are constantly dehydrated, you don't even know what it feels like to feel good, because you're never operating at this optimal level. It's kind of like, you know, I know I've spoken about petrol in the dream car, but that's nearly like the oil in the engine. It's like if that's never at its optimal level, well, the car's never going to function optimally. So water at the desk, sipping on it. If you're not good with water, think about what you can have. Can it be sparkling water? Can it be a kombucha, herbal teas? We don't want to go for the sweetened beverages, because like we said, they're going to crash and burn our sugar levels, which are not great for our blood glucose and our focus. And also, to be honest, when I talk to people about hydration and they tell me they don't like water, I guess because I'm presenting to a boys' school here, I would be like, we just need to put our big boy pants on, and we need to focus on this, and we need to prime ourselves and create the habit. So having a water bottle with you is a really big part of that. So tip number 1 would be breakfast, but tip number 2 for me would be hydration, because it's a low-hanging fruit. It's something that we're able to get access to, and again, being at home, it's a really great time to form these good habits or improve these habits. Really quickly touching on sleep, more from this, you know, everything that I talk to people about is living your best, feeling your best, and in this context, it's about doing your best at school, retaining the most information, performing in your exams. And obviously that really comes down to retention, and also ability to kind of, when we're under pressure, remember the information. So what we know about sleep, and I guess I'm going to talk to you about the, you know, sleep and nutrition. Like, I love the fact that you can eat to improve sleep. I don't love the fact, but I love that we know a lot about foods that then impact sleep. So if we know this, we're then able to implement. And again, talking about this spreading of intake across the day, that is so much more conducive to a better night's sleep, because we're not having the bulk of our intake at the back end of the day from a digestion point of view. But quantity and quality are really important. And I know being on a screen all day, every day can be really challenging and can impact sleep, but we just really want to kind of distance from the end of the day when we finish studying, you know, have 30 to 60 minutes ideally. I know that might sound crazy, but 30 to 60 minutes before between screens and bed, because we really want to get into that deep REM sleep. It's so important for your overall memory, creativity, and learning. Extreme examples here, obviously these are very active people, but again, if you jump onto my Instagram, I do a lot of like eat like the elite. Like, I show some of the elite athletes that I work with and how they eat, but this is a really interesting slide talking about some of the elite and how they sleep. So, you know, for most of us, if we can get 7 to 8 or 9 hours, but some of the best athletes in the world are getting lots of sleep, and that's really important to their overall performance. So what should you be eating before sleep to help? It's very much in line with everything I've spoken about today. So your protein foods are really important. Dairy, it's got an amino acid tryptophan, which helps promote melatonin, but dairy is a really good option. Our low grain, high fiber carbohydrates, some other lean proteins, some nuts and seeds, certain fruits, particularly bananas and cherries. But look, that's very similar to kind of what I've spoken to you about across the day. So it's not necessarily anything different. It's just having a similar, so maybe it's cheese and crackers with some fruit on the side, or maybe it's a smoothie, or maybe it's a glass of milk and some nuts and seeds and a piece of fruit. So yeah, it might be very different to what you're feeling like and craving. That will actually help you sleep better. It's sleep promoting. Whereas when we have these highly refined sweets, high fat meals, spicy foods, caffeine, definitely, that will definitely impact our sleep. So coming to the very end, I just wanted to call out a few brain hero foods if that is of particular interest. So as I said, the main thing I want you to walk away knowing all the elements, start making your meals and your snacks up like that. But if you really want to kind of optimize your brain health and function, there are a few key groups or foods or nutrients which will do that. So our omega-3 fatty acids, our B group vitamins, and our vitamin D. So omega-3s, if we eat oily fish, that is them, but it also is nuts and seeds like chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, that type of thing. Really important for brain health and function, both EPA and DHA, which are types of omega-3s. Our B group vitamins, our green veg, our whole grains, eggs, dairy as well. They're really important in supporting the kind of metabolic function of certain nutrients important for your brain health. And vitamin D, which our best source is from the sunshine, so getting outside, getting a little bit of safe sun exposure, getting some movement, that's really important from a brain health point of view as well. So thank you very much for having me on. I just keep looking at the time, so pretty much bang on time for the 45 minutes. Look, if anyone's interested in anything further to, I guess, optimize their day-to-day, they want to reach out with questions. As I mentioned, there's myself and 5 other dietitians, and we all kind of have our specialty areas. So please reach out. And we also have some ebooks, which we've kind of taken everything that we've learned over the last, well, Chloe and I have been doing this for 23 years, and actually have not worked out what our total amount of time would be with everyone, but it's a lot of years of dietitianing, and we definitely have different people to help with the different areas. So that's the best email for me. Health and Performance Collective and my own website, and then Instagram handles as well. So thank you. I'm not going to close this screen because we're having some technicals. I'm going to let Elliot jump in if there's any questions, and thank you for your time.
Jess, firstly, I just want to say a massive thank you, because it's obvious how much time you put into this presentation, and it's just packed full of information. So I'll throw a couple questions that kind of came through. One of the good ones is, what if we absolutely hate some of the more healthy foods, like hating an entire section of color food? And is there a type of color food that you would recommend, or that is better than others?
They're all great. Look, the green ones are the best, but the way that I frame it is start somewhere. So look, I get it. I remember being a teenager and, you know, not liking everything. And, you know, I was a swimmer. So from that side of things, I actually saw a dietitian, which is why I'm now doing this, you know, 20 years later or whatever it is. But it was nearly like, okay, if you absolutely have to, where would you start? There often is at least 1 or 2 or 3 things which is up for discussion or negotiation. Start there, start to create the habit, and then persist forward. Like if it's a veggie thing, I get it. But then I'm like, what can we do? Can we roast our veggies with extra virgin olive oil? Like it's honestly, whatever it is, it's just pick something. And that's how I often frame it with the students I work with one-on-one, or even the elite athletes. It's always a negotiation. I'm like, it's extreme, but life or death, you absolutely have to eat something from this. What are we choosing? And they'll often choose their 1, 2, or 3 things, start, build, progress over perfection. So, yeah. And taste buds change over time. So we just got to be a little bit persistent and consistent with it. Or the other thing is obviously we can sneak and hide things like smoothies or that kind of thing, where we can maybe sneak a few little extra fruits or something in there. Put a bit of honey, put some peanut butter like with banana. It's delicious, and it's a good way to start to make it a bit fun and tasty.
Yeah, I've definitely seen you and Chloe have to bargain with professional athletes. So I think you brought up a lot of good points. And then some of the other questions coming through are probably about supplementation, Jess. Somebody's asked, are there any protein powders that are safe for adolescents? And another person asked about, you talked about the micronutrients. So I guess protein is a macronutrient, but in terms of the micronutrients, would you recommend any supplementation for youth, like prebiotics or probiotics, anything like that?
Definitely, if anyone has any questions, I guess.
I think Jess has frozen there, guys. So may just give it a second to see if she comes back. Otherwise, I'll let her know that she's frozen, and we'll just take a second. Obviously, with so many people being in remote learning and working from home, the broadband's probably stretched pretty thin. So we'll just give it a second, see if she comes back. What I would say, guys, on the terms of supplementation is that the school does have quite a clear stance in the fact that it is not necessary, nor do we recommend or suggest that adolescents take supplementation. So I think what you can take away is that the diet needs to be more holistic in terms of we need to be teaching our youth to get all their ingredients or all their fuel from their food. If you think about a cupcake, your diet is the cupcake, right? And supplementation is the icing on top. Now, for adolescents or anyone from year 7 to year 12, you should be focusing on nailing the diet first, right? It's only elite athletes or those who have gone through full puberty and maturation that would require any supplementation. So while I can understand, obviously, that there's a lot of current marketing for supplementation for the use by everyone, I would highly suggest that we don't need it nor require it at this point. Just heard from Jess. She's just on the way back in, so hopefully she'll do a better job than me at answering all those questions. Here she is. Thank God. I know you guys don't want to hear me waffle on, so she should be up in a second. Hi there, Jess. How you going? We may need to take you off mute. There we go.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Everything went. I just only had the chat.
No, that's okay. I'll just quickly throw you back into the supplementation. I'll handball you. I did a quick little chat in your absence, but I'm sure you'll do a much better job than me.
I don't know how much you heard, but essentially I was just like, food first always. There's obviously a mixture of macros and micronutrients in food, which bioavailability, particularly, teenagers, like I really can't sit on here and list off like brands because it is against like what I would, the Sports Dietitians Australia, if that is a question and you are seeking that kind of individual advice, send me an email with a bit more detail. But my general rule of thumb is food first, get it from there. We can get everything there. Yeah, bulk up those fruits and veggies. If we take it in a tablet, we don't even absorb it, and we can get it in the food. So let's sneak in fruits and veggies everywhere we can. Hide them, blend them, whatever you got to do.
Love it. And then I'd say one of the last questions that we have, one that I think is unreal, that we seem to be getting a lot of likes, is do we absolutely have to abandon sweets like chocolate and junk food like Macca's? Or can we have them once in a while? I personally love a good pizza.
Totally. This isn't prison. We're not in prison here. We need to have foods we enjoy, and for everyone that is a different thing. For me, I'm saying 80% of the time you're doing pretty good, 90% of the time you're absolutely killing it. And even if you think at 90%, 21 meals a week, that's still 2 meals where you can kind of have what you want. So yeah, totally. Like for me, when people tell me they crave sweet foods, I'm like, you're not eating enough protein across the day, because that's just your brain's way of saying, give me more. And I promise if you change that, you won't actually crave it. Like, yeah, have it if you like it. And the other thing I want to say to that is if you are wanting a treat, don't then not have the performance snack to have the treat. Have the performance snack to give your body what it needs, because remember, it satisfies you, it fuels you, all of that, and then have the treat, because then you'll be able to have a row or two as opposed to a block. So again, that kind of speaks to having it all, which I'm all about. I have it all. Like, I've got my own things I definitely won't be going without, but it's just then you can have a little bit. So no, everyone's got the thing, have it at times, but just don't let it replace what you're doing. Because the best thing about that is you have it and you enjoy it rather than have it and then regret it and not feel fab. So yeah. Saw something about SodaStream.
Yes, so that was one of the other ones. Does SodaStream flavors contain a lot of sugar or just a little?
Some of them do. So check the label. It's still better than having, everything's relative. I think everything's on a spectrum. So it's like, where are we on this spectrum? So it's definitely better than soft drink. And even if you can make it weaker than that, but then there's some which you can actually see on their website. You can check so just check and compare and get the ones with the lowest amount. But like, it's all relative. If that's helping you drink more water and helping, like, it's a good trade-off. And then if we can kind of wind down the amount going into it, maybe having it without. So yeah, it comes with some sugar, but for me, everything's relative.
Unreal. We just have time, I reckon, for one more, so I'll throw one more to you. Someone has asked, is carb loading worth it for elite athletes before competitions, games, or races? And I'd probably put that to also being for maybe youth athletes. Would you suggest carb loading?
Yeah, carb loading, technically what it is versus what people think it is, are probably two different things, but there's definitely a place for it. Like, if I'm thinking someone going into a tournament or even a competition, like, there's definitely value in eating more carbohydrates in that day before, particularly tournament focused competitions. But yeah, so like the reasoning, you're performing more, you're probably inability to refuel as much, so you're taking more into the muscle, the glycogen, to then rely on it, but you still want to top up. So something I really commonly see in tournaments at school level is multiple games across the day, not having much across the day because there's not that much time. And then, the back end of the day or the few days is the pointy end of the competition when you want to perform. So, maybe that's a chat for another day. But yes, have more, top up during. There is some merit in it for the right situations. But yeah, tournament style competitions in school, definitely.
Unreal, Jess. Thank you so much for tonight. We really appreciate your time and, providing parents and the boys with so much information. I will send the slides out, I guess, and make them public just so people know where to contact you. But yeah, thank you so much.
Most welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Guys, I think we'll end it there. Thank you so much for those who've put aside some time to tune in live, ask questions. I know that everyone's quite busy at the moment and looking at a screen isn't exactly what anyone wants to do for any more time than they have to, but we really appreciate you guys signing in, asking questions, taking the time to learn about nutrition, because as you can see, it's so essential for our performance. We hope to kind of put out the recording of this as well as provide the slides so you guys can re-look over the information, remind yourself what Jess said. Apologies if we didn't get to any questions, but with a couple little technical glitches, we did run out of time. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it very much.